What's going on, Chicago, and welcome to another edition of the Northside Nine, brought to you by the Four-Star Chicago Sports Guys. I am filling in for Sean for at least the first half of this show. He might be tuning in from the airport on the end of his vacation, unfortunately for him. It is a beautiful Saturday afternoon, guys, here in Chicago. It is a little windy, but still, we'll take the sun any day we can get it. Kyle, how you feeling?
Doing all right, man. I'm doing all right.
Yeah. Doing a little better. If the Cubs had another quality starting pitcher on their team, guys, we will get into their roster and the starting rotation after what it looks like, guys. If they do have a playoff series on the way, what it looks like without Shota Imanaga, without Justin Steele. Is there a desperate requirement for another arm in that rotation? And we're also going to talk about the emergence of PCA and how the Cubs need to continue to handle his development. All that and more after this. What's going on, beautiful people? Like I said, welcome to another edition of the Northside Nine. I am filling in for Sean for a little bit here, guys, but Kyle's still going to bring you all the Cubs knowledge that you need and anything you missed over the course of the week. I know they've played some pretty big series, especially interdivisional series. Kyle, let's start with the emergence of Pete Crow-Armstrong because it really just continues to grow. This guy's not really missing a beat. This to me is the best story in Chicago sports right now. I love this kid. I was such a naysayer. Sean can tell you, I was shitting all over this kid a year ago, and he's probably my favorite thing I've seen in a Cubs jersey in the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years at least. So obviously, one of the best fielders in baseball, one of the best players at the plate of baseball now. He's established himself as a possible MVP candidate. Kyle, what do the Cubs got to do to continue the growth and development of a guy who's way ahead of schedule as far as anyone's concerned?
Yeah, but I mean, what I would do if I were the Cubs is if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Just keep letting him do what he do. Keep keeping him in the middle of that lineup. Maybe some could put him near the top sometimes, 2 or 3 or 4. But I would keep him in the cleanup spot for as long as I possibly can. Right now, he is the best Cub. I know people love Kyle Tucker. Kyle Tucker is a star. There's no doubt about it. He's a really good player. But Pete Armstrong, if he continues to do what he's doing, even if he just stays consistent, he doesn't have to get better. He is a better player than Kyle Tucker. He is the best Chicago Cub. If I'm a Chicago sports fan, Bern, and I'm looking to buy a jersey today, it is a Pete Crow-Armstrong jersey, no doubt about it. I'm going to get all three of his jerseys.
Oh yeah, dude. I
But
am getting a Pete Crow-Armstrong jersey, no
yeah,
fucking
I mean,
doubt, dude.
this guy had 20 home runs, 20 steals at the age of 23. That is the youngest Cub in the history of the Chicago Cubs to do so. He's now got 60 RBIs. I mean, he's just an absolute star by every means of the word. Not only that, Brennan, but you start to hear the crowd cheer MVP, PCA, MVP, PCA. He is the most marketable player maybe in baseball. I mean, the Cubs could do so many different things with Pete Armstrong to make money off of this guy. He is absolutely a star. And he's probably right now is the most fun to watch of any player in baseball, man. I don't know if you got a chance to watch the game, but Tuesday he had one of the most remarkable catches I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, the sliding, going to left field.
And then he immediately comes back in at the bottom of the inning and hits a home run off the scoreboard like 5 minutes after he did that. I mean, like I think Pat Hughes on the Cubs radio announcement said, "This is like watching a movie, and the star is PCA." He's absolutely.
Yeah, and I heard you say something to Sean prior to the show, man. You were talking about, and I understand where you're coming from. When the Cubs need a bat in the ninth inning, it seems, at least as of late, they've been lacking. But there's been a lot of games this year, man, where I counted the Cubs out. And PCA's been pretty clutch, man. I would call him Mr. Clutch in this season because and what was the announcers now calling the Cubs the cardiac Cubs because this is a team that gives you a heart attack. They look like they're going to lose in the eighth inning, in the seventh inning, or late or early in the ninth, and they've gone to a lot of extra inning games this year. And a lot of times PCA has been the hometown hero that finds a way to hit the ball, man, and wins the Cubs a game. So I don't know what his EPA or his wins above replacement is right now. But I imagine when this season's ends, it's going to be about, I don't know, at least 7 or 8 games above where people projected it before the season began, right?
He probably will finish the season around 7 or 8. Or he right now is in second in all baseball behind Aaron Judge. What Aaron Judge is doing is absolutely remarkable.
That's
no shame to PCA because he's maybe having the best season in the history of baseball. But yeah, I mean,
He is a
The
top.
Cubs,
He's
the
top
Cubs,
10 in every. I went to looked in baseball statistics, just general categories. Man, he is top 10 in every category in baseball right now.
yeah, except for batting average, he's pretty much top 10 in
Yeah,
everything. And
yeah,
his
which was
batting average,
strange. Batting average, he's like 18th. Yeah,
he's just no, he's 62nd. He's tied for 62nd. He's got 266
batting
average.
average. So it's even that worse.
But I mean, if you're hitting for power like PCA is, and you're such a havoc on the base paths, it doesn't really matter, man. You don't have to hit 400 to be considered a superstar. If you can do what PCA does, the speed on the base paths,
Oh,
the
I was
speed in
talking
the
about Aaron
outfield.
Judge, man. Aaron
Oh yeah,
Judge.
Aaron Judge. Oh yeah, I think he's first in every category. I think right now, if the season ended, he wins the Triple Crown because he's hitting
Yeah,
close to 400. He's
Aaron
most.
Judge.
He
Aaron
has the
Judge.
second most. No, what's his name? The guy on the Mariners that the Cubs played yesterday, Cal Raleigh. He's leading the league in home runs, so he wouldn't get the Triple Crown, but he'd be damn close. But Aaron Judge is having an absolute
Who's
monster season.
also a stud in the making, man.
Cal Raleigh.
Yeah.
Yeah, he gave the Cubs a headache yesterday. If I'm the Cubs, I'm seriously thinking about walking him today. I'm not kidding. I would seriously consider walking him because every single time he came up to at bat yesterday, it looked like a struggle for the Cubs pitchers. They looked like they were kind of pussyfooting around him. But then you get up to 3 walks and no strike, or 3 balls and no strikes, and you got to start pitching it down the middle. At that point, just walk the guy. Just walk. I don't know why the Cubs continue to pitch to him. Just keep walking. Obviously, he was feeling good yesterday. He had his first at bat was a home run. Then he took a walk, and then he had another home run to take the lead later on in the game. Like, guys, if this guy has got your number, then just put him on base because a 2-run home run is worse than just letting the guy walk and striking the next guy out. So the Cubs really walking Colorado today. I wouldn't be surprised.
Maybe you'll know off the top. I remember I saw a statistic yesterday. I forget what the amount of games was, but I mean it's a statistic that stuck with me. It in the first however many games was listed there. He's PCA is the only player since Sammy Sosa to have 20 home runs and 20 stolen bases through however many games in a season. I mean, every time I read something about this guy, he's breaking a record or tying a record. He's doing something that a Cubs player hasn't done in the last 2 decades, man. I mean, you to want to talk about Kyle Tucker is an established star in this league. The Cubs did a great job in being aggressive in trading to acquire him. He's really helped this team hold this first place position they have in the Central. But PCA is, I mean, you're talking about a star for the next 10 years, right, Kyle?
Yeah, well, and as long as he just continues to do what he's doing, obviously every player in baseball, but we all know that baseball is a game of averages, right? These guys are going to have ups, they're going to have downs. It's baseball. It's the only sport in the world where you expect these guys to go through droughts. They look bad at times. That's just the sport. But the PCA continues to do exactly what he's doing. It's 266 for the rest of his career, continues to hit for the power he's hitting, continues to be his speed on the base paths, continues to create havoc for the other team, continues to be the best center fielder in baseball.
Highlight plays out in the field, yeah.
He might be the best player in baseball. I mean, I'm not talking about, obviously, I'd rather have Aaron Judge at the plate than Pete Crow-Armstrong. But if you talk about the guy in totality, you talk about a 5-tool player, a guy who can do everything on a baseball field. PCA right now, I'd be hard-pressed to find somebody anybody thinks is better than Pete Crow-Armstrong. I mean, on top of his speed on the base paths and his amazing outfield play, the guy has a rocket of an arm, too. He could throw you out at home from center. I mean, there's not that many guys in baseball who can do that. And PCA, when you look at him, that's the funny thing about Pete Crow-Armstrong to me. When you look at Pete Crow-Armstrong, you don't think like, man, this guy is just a strong, huge, going to hit for power, can throw somebody out from center field to home plate. He's just a huge, strong guy. He doesn't look like that, but man, if he continues to hit for power the way he's been hitting this season, 20 home runs already, we're not even at the All-Star break, he is the best player in baseball. I mean, it's not even a question. People can say I'm biased. I'm a biased Cubs fan, but it's just go look at the statistics. This guy has 60 RBIs, 20 home runs, and 20 stolen bases, and we're not even at the All-Star break yet.
No, and I'm with you. I think he is, to me, hands down, worlds and away, the best defender in baseball. I think, and I don't think that's a biased thing to say. I think that's, I mean, probably a pretty popular opinion around the MLB right now. This kid is making magic in the outfield, like you said, Kyle. We've seen him throw from center field to home plate multiple times this season. Let me ask you this, though. This is PCA's theoretically rookie season. I mean, he did play some baseball last year, but not a whole lot. The Cubs did right by PCA, and like Sean had us, talking about this in the show, his development. I think they've done a pretty good job. They've slow rolled PCA. They brought him at the end of last year, but this is his first real rookie season. I mean, the sky is the limit for this kid, Kyle. Can he increase all of the numbers that you're that you're talking about here. Can we see more home runs in the season out of PCA? Can we see a higher batting average? Can we, you know what I mean?
I don't
He's gonna be a Golden Glover for the next 10 years, man.
I don't know if you're ever going to see his home runs go up. As a matter of fact, you might be looking at one of PCA's best seasons in terms of power, just because not many people, even the experts, didn't expect Pete Crow-Armstrong to be on pace for 45 home runs. Nobody expected that. But one thing I do expect to get better from Pete Crow-Armstrong is he's going to start to see the strike zone a little bit better. Obviously, every veteran player in baseball sees the ball better than they did when their first couple seasons, right? Because they get used to that strike zone, especially when they get to know each umpire individually. But yeah, I expect his walks to go up at some point in his career. And right now, I'm not really concerned about it because if PCA can hit really bad pitches, so just keep swinging, kid, until your back gets cold. But once his back gets cold, Pete Crow-Armstrong does need to get better at taking walks, man, because right now he's just kind of swinging at everything. And when you're swinging at everything and hitting everything, that's fine. But if he ever does go get cold, and he's starting to, he has one of those stretches where he's 0 for 19, like we've seen every player in baseball do. Pete Crow-Armstrong needs to start taking walks, man.
Yeah, Foster actually says while you were talking about this, man, that the kid surely can hit bad pitches, and Foster, you're 100% correct. I mean, we've seen a couple of Pete Crow-Armstrong's home runs come off pitches a lot of batters wouldn't even swing at, but. I mean, you're right, Kyle. If the guy's stretching out of the zone, if he's swinging too, but a lot of his home runs, man, have come from did you know? I think it was 3 of his home runs this season have come on pitches that were only 2 feet off the dirt, which.
Well, and he can hit the high fastball. He can hit the low or the slider. Pete Crow-Armstrong can hit everything. He's just, at some point, like I said, I do expect his bat to slow down a little bit, and that's just natural. I'm not saying it's because PCA is not a good player or anything like that. That just happens to every player in baseball. So when that happens, he's got to get a little more discipline at the plate because it's like basically comparing him to Nico Horner, man. Like Nico Horner rarely ever is going to take walks. He's always going to, because he can fight off almost every pitch that a pitcher has in his arsenal. Nico Horner hits everything, right? He puts the ball in play almost every time he's at bat. But if you're hitting, if you're that guy, then keep swinging, keep putting the ball in play. But if you're hitting swings and misses like PCA does, or if he has a bad game, he has 2 or 3 strikeouts, then the older he gets, the more he matures in the game of baseball. I expect him to turn some of those strikeouts into walks. And that will come with time, Brian. Like you said, he's pretty much a rookie at this point. The more he plays Major League Baseball, the more he'll get used to that strike zone, and the more he'll start to take those walks. And I believe that 100%. I really have no complaints about Pete Crow-Armstrong.
He's not walking at a high rate, and a lot of which is strange. A lot of young players, a lot of guys who are new, pitching hitting in the MLB, take walks because they're not as aggressive at the plate as Pete Crow-Armstrong is swinging on pitches outside the zone. But right now, I'll take the numbers, man. I mean, the guy is hitting the ball everywhere, so. I do want to, Bruce says here, guys, well, first off, he said PCA has been awesome, but he says the pitching hasn't been great for the last 2 games. Hopefully things get turned around. And Bruce, we're going to dive into the pitching in a little bit here. Then he says this: PCA and Suzuki are such fun to watch. When they play well together, it's time for Tucker to step up. Tucker's played pretty good baseball here, Bruce. I mean, he has been, in regards to the contract that the Cubs were discussing with him, he's probably been under that mark. But I'll say this right now, man. The Cubs have a real shot if they do figure out this starting rotation, because you got a 3-headed monster. And Kyle Tucker, Seiya Suzuki, and Pete Crow-Armstrong, they have the offense, as good offense as any team in the major league.
Don't forget Nico Horner, man. That guy has been.
Well, no, I still think Ian Happ is a guy who can make an impact.
I think Ian Happ, correct me if you think I'm wrong, Brian, but is Ian Happ not just the most Cubs consistent hitter?
Yeah,
like whenever the Cubs have cold streaks,
switch hits. He's not a lot of players in the Cubs can do that. I mean,
yeah, he's not affected by their highs and lows. Like if the Cubs are having highs, it's not like, oh, Hap's riding with them and he's hitting 5 bombs in a week. If they have lows, it's not like he's striking out 6 times a game. He's just always that consistent 250 to 260. He's going to give you 25 bombs, going to give you 80 to 100 RBIs. That's just Ian Happ, and that's always who he's going to be. And I love him at the leadoff spot, man, because you talk about somebody who's been good at taking walks this season. Ian Happ has had some really, really good at bats as of late. Really, really good at bats. And actually, the Cubs team as a whole. I mean, I don't know if you saw the game yesterday, but Reese McGuire hit a home run. Before he hit that home run yesterday, he fought off 20 pitches before he hit the home run. I'm like,
I love those at bats, man. I thought that is so debilitating for a pitcher, man.
And no disrespect to Reese McGuire, but just the type of player he is, you're like, this is probably going to end up in a strikeout. But it's cool that he just wasted 20 pitches from this guy, and then he hits that home run. And at the time, that gave the Cubs, I think, a 2-run lead. So, yeah, just another season of the Cubs getting really, really good base offense from the backup catchers. When you talk about Carson Kelly.
Anthony Rizzo did a lot of that too, man. He'd wear pitchers down, and then you would think at some point in this he's going to strike out, or he's going to or even walk. Anthony Rizzo was pretty good at getting on base, but when you get 20 pitches out of a pitcher and then, and then hit a home run, man, I can't imagine what that feels like for a pitcher and for an opposing manager, man, because that's when you got to start to look at, do I pull this guy out, man? But I agree with you, man. I think Kyle Tucker, or I think Ian Happ is, but one thing that you said there that kind of stuck with me is he hits even when the Cubs aren't. And I've come to find, man, when I'm looking through, at least in the games that I'm missing, I'm looking through box scores. I'm like, man, a lot of games the Cubs lose. Ian Happ hits a home run. It feels like a lot of Ian Happ's home runs just go to waste. It really does, and I think it affects how the fans view Ian Happ. I don't think the fans are real high on Ian Happ, and I think his defense is 100% undervalued, Kyle.
Yeah, I mean, Ian Happ's a Gold Glover. He's been a Gold Glover. He's a good player in the outfield. He's consistent at the plate. I think he's really good to lead a leadoff man in baseball. I think he's one of the best leadoff men in baseball. And like I said, man, he's just consistent. Not to mention he's a switch hitter, so for both sides of the plate. So it doesn't matter who's pitching. Ian Happ will be out there. He's just all around a solid baseball player. And I know Ian Happ's time here is probably running out. I think he's got 1 year left on his contract after this. And honestly, it's going to be sad to see Ian Happ go if they decide not to bring him back, because I know Ian Happ's not like a superstar and he's not going to be the reason the Cubs win the World Series, but he's a very important part of this team, and he's just a very likable guy. I mean, Ian Happ, since he's been on the Cubs, I mean, quietly, Brennan, this is a guy who's starting to become one of the longest tenured Cubs in the history of the Chicago Cubs. Like, it's just crazy that Ian Happ's been here for so long, and you kind of almost forget about him, but he is the pillar of consistency. Another thing about Ian Happ is he doesn't have the strongest arm in the world in the outfield, but man, is he accurate. Like, when he throws from the outfield to home plate, it is on the dot every single time. If Ian Happ didn't get thrown out the plate 3 times at home plate 3 times this year, this has actually would have been one of my favorite Ian Happ seasons. And I know he's only hitting I think it's 255, 260, something like that right now. But all around, Ian Happ's been amazing for the Cubs this year. And he's kind of like that guy. Like, you remember, Vernon, when Joe Mann used to say during the 2016 season to Dexter Fowler, if you go, we go. If you go, we go. You're the leadoff guy. You're the guy who sets the tone. I think Ian Happ's kind of been that guy for the Chicago Cubs.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know where they rank, man, but I think the Cubs are 100% one of the best outfields in baseball, and Ian Happ's
I think they're the best outfield in baseball.
What's that?
I think they're the best outfield.
Yeah, and Ian Happ's been a pretty major part of that. So, yeah, and there's going to be players, like you said, you can't have you're not going to have a lineup full. You're not going to have 9 guys at home plate that are all superstars, man. It's just not the way it's going to work.
Unless you're the Dodgers and you pay every single free agent.
But even some of their, like, Mookie Betts right now is likely not going to make this all-star team, man. So, I mean, even those guys have their struggles, man, and they've had some issues with their pitchers, and they're getting Ohtani back. So, I mean, that we know by end of season that Dodgers team's going to be just a machine. But I think this Cubs team can match up with just about anybody when it comes to the defense they're playing, man. They just need some pitching. So real quick, Kyle, before we talk about the pitchers, I do want to say we talked a little bit on the Monday show about whether or not the Cubs made the right decision in not offering more money in order to retain Kyle Tucker long term, to kind of play the wait and see game, which might bite him, like you said, Kyle, because there's some names throwing their hat in the pool here. But do you think the Cubs did the right thing? Do you think Jed Hoyer did the right thing by not giving this guy the $600 million plus that he's asking for and playing the wait and see? And is there a chance that because Kyle Tucker, I mean, he's been phenomenal baseball player, which is a testament to how good this guy is. He's been good, but not $600 million good as far as I'm concerned, Kyle. Did the Cubs do the right thing by playing the wait and see game? Is this going to maybe benefit the Cubs? Can they get Kyle Tucker at a lower price when the season ends?
Well, so let's talk about Kyle Tucker real quick. So right now, Kyle Tucker has a 284 average. It's tied for 32nd baseball. That's nothing to be ashamed of. 284 in baseball is really good, because the more these guys throw 100 miles an hour, the more you're starting to see that average in baseball drop to 250, 260. He's got 13 home runs, which is tied for 32nd as well. He's got 43 RBIs, which is 36th. And then he's got OPS 908, so he's actually in the top 10 in OPS. I mean, listen, there's no doubt, Brennan, that Kyle Tucker is a star in baseball. He is. He's one of the best players. If you took the top 20 players in baseball, you have to put Kyle Tucker on that list. But here's the problem. First, let's talk about Tuesday. So Tuesday alone, the fact that the Boston Red Sox traded away Rafael Devers a couple days prior, and they came out Tuesday and said they're going to be in the Kyle Tucker sweepstakes come the offseason. That is one of the 3 teams in baseball you did not want to get into a bidding war with when it comes to extending Kyle Tucker, because, man, we've seen this before, Vernon. We saw this before the season, right? The Cubs and Boston Red Sox were in a bidding war for Alex Bregman at third base, and finally, the Red Sox were like, you know what, Bregman, we know you're a little bit older. We know that you're probably not the player you used to be. You're probably not the same as your MVP season, but we're going to give you $40 million a year, because they have money and they spend it, and the Cubs just don't. So that is one of the 1 teams in baseball you did not want to get into a bidding war. So the longer we get into the season, Brendan, the worse that trade's going to look, because if the Cubs don't extend Kyle Tucker, he just became a rental here for 1 year, and they traded away Cam Smith. The same day that news came out that the Boston Red Sox were going to be aggressive and search for Kyle Tucker, Cam Smith, the guy the Cubs traded to the Astros for Kyle Tucker, got ahead of his first 4-hit game and hit 2 bombs on that same exact day that Boston came out and said that. So it's just, even though it was a great day for the Cubs and they got a win, it wasn't a really good day for that trade, because if the Cubs can't find a way to extend him, that trade's going to be one of the worst Cubs trades in the history of the Chicago Cubs. I'm listening. I know people love Kyle Tucker. I know they love to go to Wrigley and watch him. I know he's made this team a much better team. This team's special to watch. They kind of have some of those 2016 vibes, but you got to think about the future of the team, right, Brennan? And it looks like, and obviously, Brennan, it's way, way, way too early to make any like a final opinion on him. But Cam Smith looks like he's going to be a very, very good player in baseball. Right now, he's got a 270 average for a rookie. That's amazing. I mean, this guy was the 3rd quickest player in the history of baseball to make a major league roster. He's got a 270 average in the majors, so he's seeing the ball well. He has 5 home runs and 27 RBIs. I mean, if this guy continues on this trajectory, if those numbers all continue to go up, he's going to be a superstar as well. So basically, you just traded a superstar away in Cam Smith for a guy like Kyle Tucker, who's also a superstar, but it's just for a 1-year rental. That's not going to be a good look for the Chicago Cubs. They have to find a way to get this deal done now. Bernard, going into the season, Kyle Tucker's camp basically came out and said, listen, we're not going to talk extensions. We're not, because we want to hit free agency. We want to see what other teams are willing to offer. So I don't even know if it was a possibility that the Cubs could have signed him. I don't. Although, like you said, Bernard, I'm pretty sure if they called Kyle Tucker in the office and they're like, hey, we want to give you $600 million, just sign on the dotted line, he would have been like, here you go. But I do agree, Brennan, that when the season started, you heard his camp talking about $450 million contract extension, right? And I'm like, you know what? I think at $400 million, the Cubs would probably be in play, because they could probably get him to fall in love with Wrigley Field and maybe even take like a hometown discount where he sounds for $385, $415, somewhere in there, right? But then a couple weeks ago, his camp comes out, and his manager, or his agent, which I don't even, Kyle Tucker didn't say this, but his agent came out and said they're probably looking for somewhere close to $600 million. Right now, Brennan, as much as I love Kyle Tucker, as much as he's a star, as much as I want him to be here for the rest of his career, as much as he's made this team a really good baseball team, probably the best offensive lineup in baseball to this point in the season, he's not a $600 million player. He's just not. I understand that every time a player gets paid in baseball, a star gets paid, he's going to reset the market. It's kind of like it's the same in the NFL, the same in the NBA. These numbers just continue to go up, and you have to kind of, if the times are changing, you got to change with them, right? But if you're a Cubs fan, do you want them to stick $600 million into a guy like Kyle Tucker, who's an average outfielder? He's an average base runner, but he's really, really good at the plate, when they could take those funds and go add to this team elsewhere, like maybe a starting pitcher in free agency, like if they had been in the Max Fried conversation last year, or maybe they trade for a really good pitcher and they extend him instead of paying Kyle Tucker. I mean, these are some of the things that Jed Hoyer's going to have to start to think about. And these are tough decisions. I love Kyle Tucker. I do. I just don't think with the numbers I just gave you, I don't consider him a $600 million player. Another thing I want to talk about with Kyle Tucker, not to say that he's bad, because Kyle Tucker hits with runners in scoring position. That's how he has so many RBIs. But I feel like those games where it's like clutch time, right? Like it's bottom of the ninth, 2 out, you got a man in scoring position. Yeah, you got a man in scoring position. Kyle Tucker's at the plate. I just feel like he hasn't come through in those moments. If you're a $600 million player, you want to get paid like with the likes of Juan Soto and Ohtani, you have to hit in those situations, man. You have to be the guy. Like if Kyle Tucker wants $600 million, he has to be the guy, because right now, Bernard, the highest paid Cub is Dansby Swanson, and he certainly isn't that guy. Like, listen, I like Dansby Swanson. I like what he does on defense. But at the end of the day, he's probably in his career as a 250, 260. That's probably who he is. That's probably who he's going to be. So Tucker needs to step up and be the absolute superstar for $600 million. If you're going to give this guy $600 million, he needs to be the best Cub on the team for the next 10 years. Like, it's not even, he doesn't even be better than PCA. He needs to be the guy who can carry the load, the guy who can stop a bad run. If the Cubs offense has been bad for a month, Kyle Tucker needs to be the guy who comes out and turns it around. But I don't know, Brendan, if they are going to do a bidding war, and everybody, Sean has joined the show from the airport here, man. What's going on, Sean?
What up, everybody? Can you hear me?
Are you sad?
I'm very sad, but I'm also very burnt.
You look burnt.
I'm burnt. As much, the sun down here is different. As much SPF 50 as I put on it, it still didn't work.
The sun is brutal in Florida.
Yeah, but I will say, Brennan, Sean, right now we're talking about Kyle Tucker, just what he means to this team. If the $600 million extension is realistic opportunity for the Cubs. But I'll tell you what, Brennan, if there's 3 teams in baseball you did not want to get into a bidding war with when it comes to Kyle Tucker, it's the New York Yankees, the Los Angeles Dodgers, and the Boston Red Sox. Those are 3 teams you did not want to get into a bidding war.
I would say the San Diego Padres are starting to put their name on that list too, man. They seem to be.
The Padres have so much money out right now, Brennan. They've paid so many people already. When they paid Yu Darvish, they paid Dylan Cease, they paid Fernando Tatis. They have so much money out. I don't think they would be in the conversation for Kyle Tucker. I just don't think they could afford him. As a matter of fact, if anything, I think the Padres are probably going to try to get rid of one of these big contracts at some point. I think there's been people talking about the chances or the opportunity of them trading Dylan Cease off this team. I don't think they're going to be in the conversation, but if you have to get into a bidding war, and Sean, you correct me if I'm wrong, but if you got into a bidding war with the Boston Red Sox, we just saw this with Alex Bregman. We just saw it. This last offseason, the Alex Bregman conversation came down to 2 teams, the Chicago Cubs or the Boston Red Sox, and the Boston Red Sox gave him $40 million a year. You're talking about a 30-year-old player, $40 million a year. Imagine what they'll give Kyle Tucker.
Is Manny Machado's contract ending? Is this his final year?
No, I don't think so. I think his contract was like a lifelong contract. I think it was
one of those
some ridiculous 15 years. He's not going to play 15 years, so you're just pushing that money off for the future. But I think Manny Machado's a lifelong Padre. I think I'll retire on
that. The thing for me with Kyle Tucker is I think it's a little bit different because of what the Cubs gave up this offseason. And you kind of got to look at it and say, you kind of got to stick your nose out there because you traded away some very important pieces, including Cam Smith, for a 1-year rental, and they're starting to clamor and starting to say Jed Hoyer deserves this, to be re-upped because his contract's up at the end of the season. I think he has to put a staple. He has to make a statement. The Cubs kind of have to spend their money. They have to compete with these bigger teams. They put themselves in this position by giving away these prospects. So
what's disappointing is, we're sitting here saying they got to compete with the bigger teams. The Cubs are a bigger team. They need to act like it. Like, guys, act like it. You're the 4th richest team in baseball. This is the 4th biggest market in baseball. It goes Dodgers, Yankees, Red Sox, Cubs. The Cubs, look what the Dodgers are doing. Look what the Yankees are doing. Look what the Red Sox are doing. If you want to compete with those teams for a long time and have sustained success here, you need to start spending money like they are, and the Cubs have that money to spend. Burnham, the Cubs can absolutely afford to give Kyle Tucker $600 million. It just comes down to whether or not they want to.
Yeah,
that's the conversation.
And what you
that's true,
Sean. I'm going to agree with you, Sean, because you can't become an aggressive baseball team like you were in this offseason and trading for Kyle Tucker and then not win a championship and stop being aggressive. You can't take your foot off the gas until you win a championship, man. The point of being an aggressive team in any sport is the result is supposed to be a championship. So you don't go make this trade, get aggressive like we want this guy who's asking for $500 million and Kyle Tucker, and then you have one season where you make a playoff berth, let's say, or not, you make it through one round, then you're knocked out, and then you're like, we're gonna take our foot off the gas, we're not gonna pay Kyle Tucker the money. Then what's the point? What was the point of the aggression? It has to result in something.
And I know that
the tickets either.
The Cubs are more like, we're going to build this thing through the minor league system, which I think they've done a good job with. But you need a Kyle Tucker. You need PCA to continue to develop. And I know PCA is having a sensational season, but you need to kind of see that continue through 162. And then again next year, and make sure this just isn't a one-off. I mean, he does look like a $600 million player, but you have to see it repeatedly. You know, we've seen a lot of flash in the pans, a lot of players that come in, they have one great season, and then they just can't repeat it. So I don't think that's going to be the case with PCA. He looks like the real deal to me.
Yeah, he
But
does.
I mean, Sean, it wouldn't surprise me if this is the most home runs Pete Crow-Armstrong ever hits his entire career. That would not surprise me, because this is not something that was advertised for Pete Crow-Armstrong. Nobody was like, this guy's going to hit 50 bombs. Nobody said that.
no.
This is coming out of nowhere. This power is coming out of nowhere. So,
Well, coming into the season, Kyle, he was a 20. They projected him for 20 home runs, and I believe I read yesterday he's the first 20 guy before July since Eric Davis in 1987.
Oh, it's Eric Davis.
So
That's who it was. Yeah, Eric
he's
Davis.
he's the first 20-20-60 Cub, or he's the youngest 20-20-60 Cub in the history of the Chicago Cubs. So he's got 20 home runs, 20 stolen bases, and 60 RBI.
Yeah, I don't see a whole lot of regression. I know I understand what you guys are saying. I don't see a whole lot of regression in Pete Crow-Armstrong. I think as young as he is and as little baseball as he's played, man, it's hard to believe. But I think I think Pete Crow-Armstrong might get better in all of the.
Well, like I said, Bernard, he should get better at plate discipline. I do expect his walks to go up at some point in his career. And almost every player in baseball, the longer they play in the majors, the walk rate goes up.
Well, look, Kyle, I think that stat too was an over 37% chase rate with 20 home runs, 20 stolen bases before July with I think it was 37% chase rate. Him and Eric Davis are the only two to do it. I'd have to double check on that, but it was something very, very close. And we definitely want to see that chase rate go down. But I also don't want to take the aggressiveness away from Pete Crow-Armstrong.
Before you got on here, I told Vernon, I'm like, hey man, as long as he's hitting bombs and doubles and triples, keep that aggression. But the second, if you go through that, like, Sean, you know how it happens in baseball, game of averages, right? If he goes to that month stretch where he's like 1 for 28, then try to just to get your confidence back, man. Start to take some of those walks, man. Start to lay off a little bit, because right now PCA is hitting everything. I mean, do you look at the last 3 home runs he's hit? None of them were like middle pitches. He just can hit.
He can hit everywhere.
But if he does start to slow down a little bit, I'd like to see him with a little more plate discipline. But you guys, listen. There's not much to complain about when it comes to Pete Crow-Armstrong. There's just not that much to complain about. To be honest with you guys, the only reason I love Kyle Tucker, and Kyle Tucker's been as advertised for the Chicago Cubs. He's an amazing baseball player. He's a star. There's no doubt about it. I'm just being nitpicky because I'm a Cubs fan, and the Cubs he's asking for $600 million. That's why I'm being nitpicky. That's no disrespect to Kyle Tucker in any way.
It says PCA and Suzuki are the heart of this team. Yeah, they feel like homers, man. I mean, I love Kyle Tucker, and I text you guys all the time. Wow, this guy is just incredible. From the minute he's arrived here, man, his body language never screams to me that he loves being a Cub. It just doesn't. I could be wrong about that, man, but he seems like a player who cares more about himself than his team. I can't. That's a fault. So there's no merit to this. This is just the way I read him. Kyle Tucker. I don't see the excitement in him for other players' success. When you see other guys doing things well, I don't see Kyle Tucker. I don't see the same energy in Kyle Tucker that you see in guys like PCA and say Suzuki.
I think he's kind of that's kind of the guy he is. I think he's just a very quiet, kind of like DJ Moore. Like we have this conversation. I think he's just a reserved, quiet. He's not a rah-rah type guy. But I could tell you this, Bernard. I definitely believe that his free agent contract extension situation is probably in the back of his head,
affecting the way he's handling the city of Chicago. I think so too, man. And I think when other players are making strides and doing things, when he's in the dugout and these guys are out there hitting home runs, you just don't see the same energy from Kyle Tucker as you see the guys who A, have been here for a while, or B, know they're going to be here for a while. And then Jedediah also says, guys, PCA has good utility no matter what, as long as he can get on base. Should mean sustained success. Hope he keeps hitting the way he does, though. Yeah, that's kind of what we're saying, Jed. We're with you. I think PCA is going to be a good player for a long time to come here, especially on the defensive side. But I don't see his bat slowing down, man. You guys both said it on the show today. The kid's aggressive. He's aggressive, and he sees a pitch well. There's no doubt about that. And I think even the best parts of PCA could improve, guys. He's a very young player who's played very little baseball. He could get better in every facet of baseball.
Yeah, he could get
You
better.
got-
He could get worse. Like Sean said, this is just sometimes it's just a matter of time. Maybe this is the best stretch of his career. We don't know, but yeah, he should certainly get better. Practice makes perfect. But I don't
And he's
know.
a hard-working kid. We know that.
Or we've heard interviews with Kyle Tucker. He loves Chicago. Like I said, I just don't think he's that rah-rah type guy. I love Kyle Tucker, man. Let me make that clear on the show to everybody. There's no doubt that I want Kyle Tucker to be in right field at Wrigley Field for the next 10 years. That's the best case scenario for the Chicago Cubs because he's one of those guys to me. He's just such a professional hitter. He's probably going to be good till 36, 37. I mean, he's just the model of consistency. But for $600 million, man, you got to be the guy. You got to be a star. You got to be Soto. You got to be Ohtani. You got to be a star. You have to show up.
Yeah.
At that. But
Acuna and Witt.
Sean, we were kind of waiting for you. We just wanted to get into this rotation a little bit before you have to get out of here, man. But I mean, we started.
I got a little while, bro. This plane ain't taking off for a minute.
But you started to see some of this Cubs pitching start to kind of, I think you said yesterday, you said it's starting to snowball a little bit here. So it seems like every time a team has a pitcher with a bad outing, sometimes it can kind of turn into a catastrophe and blow up in your face. Where do you think this Cubs rotation is at, and what do you think they have to do to really compete for the World Series?
Well, I'll be honest, right now I'm very happy and excited. I don't know if you guys touched on this, but Shota had a fantastic performance yesterday in Nashville. 4 innings. I believe he struck out 7, got a bunch of whiffs. I think he's going to be back against the Cardinals this coming week, probably pitch towards game 3 or game 4 of that series, which would be a phenomenal lift for the Cubs. They need something like that. But I'll be perfectly honest, and I know this is going to cost a lot, and I'm really excited. I know everyone's Sandy Alcantara, but if you're looking at Edward Cabrera right now in Miami, man, that guy, he's young. What is he, 26? And he seems to be on that trajectory to be a front-end starter. And I know Miami wants to get a lot for him, but his numbers over his last 7 starts have been phenomenal. And you need to find someone like that you can throw out there with Shota. You have to do this. And I'm not going to bag on Taillon. I know, Kyle, you're going to go in on him a little bit, but 6 out of the last 7 quality starts. People tend to forget. You live in the moment. He had a bad outing against Milwaukee, excuse me. He also went to Detroit and went 7 innings and held down one of the best teams in baseball and got the Cubs' only win in that series. So I still trusted Taillon a little bit more. I know you don't as much as I do, Kyle. I'd still give him the ball. But, a little bit concerning, too. Matthew Boyd, according to Craig Counsell, has a baseball-sized bruise on his shoulder. We'll see how that does, and we know his health has always been a question. But honestly, you got to make a play at an Edward Cabrera or maybe even a Sandy Alcantara if that's what you can get. You got to get a 1-2 punch.
Yeah, I mean, Sean, I listen, what I've said since day one, man. Jameson Taillon, this has been his best season for the Chicago Cubs so far. I'm not complaining about Jameson Taillon.
100%.
The problem I have with Jameson Taillon, so right now he has a 3.84 ERA. Obviously, he's not like he's lighting the world on fire, but he has been really good. And this is probably his best season as a Cub. I think he's had, Sean, like 9 of his last 10 starts have been quality starts. The problem with Jameson Taillon is he's always got that little bit of inconsistency. You're always going to get those Milwaukee Brewers starts like you saw the other day. That's going to happen from time to time with Jameson Taillon. It's who he is. He's not Chris Sale. He's not Clayton Kershaw in his prime. He's not this guy who's going to pitch to his sub-2 ERA. It's just not him. He's going to have these games where he just kind of implodes. Now, the question is, how can you predict when those games are coming? Because if you're going to
you're coming to
a playoff series against the Dodgers and he has a bad game, the Dodgers will absolutely eat him alive. Because, Sean, to be honest with you, this Milwaukee Brewers lineup isn't phenomenal. They're good. They're better than people think, but they're not the Los Angeles Dodgers.
No.
The Brewers are always better than people think.
Well, and the Brewers always play the Cubs, though. Always.
Too, I don't know. And I know this isn't the 2016 ball club, but you got to think about that July when the Cubs played 4 games. They're 12-16 that month. They played 2 games over 500 in June. These struggles are going to happen, especially when you're playing these 26 games and in the heart of the summer, you're playing all top playoff contenders. You're going to have these ups and downs. Yesterday was heartbreaking. I will say that. Yesterday was heartbreaking. You had Deal Bar, who I thought was the right decision, gave up his first earned run since April 30th. Yesterday was depressing loss, a little bit even more than the Brewers because you were facing that Logan Gilbert, who's just not been good all year, and the Cubs offense seems to really be in a funk. And I know they scored 7 runs against the Brewers, but outside of that game, they're averaging three runs a game over the past couple of weeks. So this offense really needs to turn around and carry this load for this team outside of the pitching, because as we've discussed all season, Kyle, we know this pitching isn't going to be the strength of this ball club unless they make some moves. So
I want to ask you guys. I want to ask you guys a question in regards to this rotation because, like you said, Sean, we can't undermine the importance and the value of Shota Imanaga coming back. Who do you does this take Cade Horton or Ben Brown out of the starting rotation? And if so, does it give you the ability to strengthen your relief a little bit?
I think it takes. I hopefully it takes Colin Ray out. I don't know where you are, Kyle, but I still think I want to see Ben Brown grow as a starting pitcher in this league, because we've talked about this, ad nauseum, Kyle. I think he has incredible stuff, and I think he could be an incredible 2-3 in a rotation as he continues to learn how to use that changeup. So for me, today's move, Kyle, we were talking about this a little bit ago. I don't understand the Nate Pearson move, and strengthen that bullpen. When you have Luke Little, you have Riley Martin, and a name that people aren't talking about is, if you go look, they signed Tom Cosgrove, and Cosgrove's actually pitching really well in AAA. And you're bringing back Nate Pearson, and this is a guy, Kyle, you and I said we never want to see him throw a pitch for the Cubs again.
It's like they were so quick to cut Cabrera, which they should, because he wasn't good.
Oh, 100%.
But they're like, we're going to cut him and bring somebody better up. Oh, who are you bringing up? Nate Pearson. Okay, so you cut Cabrera to bring up Cabrera. What are you doing? Dude, they tried this experiment. He didn't have a single outing on the Cubs without allowing a run. Not one.
Yeah.
Why would you bring him back up here? If Luke Little, what is Luke Little has pitched 3 full games in the minors. So obviously not at a time. He's a relief pitcher, so 1 inning at a time. But he's now up to 27 innings, and he's allowed 6 runs all season. I mean, that's his ERA is like 1.2.
That kid's got stuff. That kid's got stuff that Nate Pearson can only ever dream of.
Yeah, you're talking about a guy who is Sean, 6'7". The guy throws triple digits consistently. I mean, if you can turn that in and you can get him to find the strike zone consistently, which I think it seems to me like he's starting to do it, right? If that's the case, then why would you even consider bringing Nate Pearson back on the baseball team? This is just one of those moves, once again, where I'm like, Craig Counsell, I love you. I think you're a very good manager, but sometimes I don't know what the fuck you're doing. It just doesn't.
I'm with you. I just put up the stat of Riley Martin. I can't put anything up on the screen. Pop that up there really quick. Why aren't you calling on this guy? Like, are you insane? You're bringing Nate Pearson. I mean, this guy, between Little and Martin, to me, they've earned their shot, and they should be getting it right now in Major League Baseball. I don't understand this move at all. And actually, I was on the way to the airport when I saw it, and I was just like, oh, man, I screamed in the car. I'm like, this is so stupid.
Well, sure. And if you bring these 2 guys up and these guys continue to pitch the way they've been pitching in the minors, right? You're talking about Riley Martin, Luke Little. You're talking about maybe the best bullpen in baseball if these guys that are already up here could continue to do what they've been doing. You're talking about Porter Hodge coming back healthy. You're talking about Daniel Palencia doing these. And you know what, Sean? I understand Theo Barr gave up that 2-run homer yesterday, but first of all, it happens, right? Like, no, there's no
exactly.
Second of all, that was Cal Raleigh, who obviously nobody on the Cubs can stop. I mean, the guy was an absolute beast yesterday. And if I'm the Cubs, I'm seriously considering walking Cal Raleigh today every time he comes up to the plate. The Cubs can't stop this guy. I mean, he's absolutely
nobody can.
Real quick, guys, we got over 20 in the building right now. Got over 20 in the building right now. I just want to give a shout out to everybody who's watching. Appreciate you. Hit that like and subscribe. I want to thank you, Foster, Jedediah, Bruce, as always, for your loyalty. If you guys got anything to say to us about the Cubs' current state, please throw it in the chat. We can discuss that as well. But Kyle, Sean, so regarding whoever it is that Shota Imanaga is going to remove from this rotation, is that to be another arm in your bullpen?
Well, I think they're going to have I mean, what would you do? You just drop, because I honestly thought Cabrera was going to be the drop when Shota came off. So I don't know where the Cubs are going to go now, or who's going to be the next guy off the list for the Cubs when Shota comes. I mean, you can't cut Colin Ray, can't Who do you think, Kyle?
Does
Like,
Morgan go back down? Maybe.
No,
I don't know if I want to see that. I mean, he's pitching really well.
I don't. I want him to keep growing on this baseball team.
Yes.
Horton's got like a 3.5 ERA. He's been one of your most consistent pitchers since he came up here.
And he pitched a really quality game last time he played.
Vernon, I understand what he means to the Cubs. I understand his veteran status. I understand that he's been in certain situations before. He's pitched in the playoffs before. But Colin Ray, to me, if I'm the Cubs, he's not on this playoff roster. I mean, I don't understand how you could possibly put Colin Ray. Listen, he had a really good start to the season. That's awesome. I think the Cubs got way more out of him than they expected to get him on the He wasn't supposed to be a starter here. But if you look at Colin Ray's last 4 or 5 starts, even the games where he's not allowing a ton of runs, they are squaring him up. It's bad, man. His pitches are coming out flat. Colin Ray is just a guy who at this point is a little bit older. I think I lost you guys.
Am I here?
We lost Brandon.
We lost Brandon. All right. Well, we'll hold it down until he comes back.
Yeah. Well, Brandon's back. Brandon's back. Funny face.
But everybody, you guys froze on my end, so maybe that was just me.
Yeah. For me, guys, even if you're talking about you'd have to remove him from the roster completely. Colin Ray to me would be the odd man out. And then Sean, I know you're not.
Jedediah says Brandon fell asleep.
you look like you're asleep. And listen, Sean, I know you're not. You've heard me say this before, and you kind of get some pushback, but with just what you're paying Presley, just how much money he's making, if he continues to pitch, if he continues to have these implosions where he comes in and he can't get outs, I don't see him being on the major league playoff roster either. I just don't. It just wouldn't make sense to me. If you can bring guys up like Riley Martin and Luke Little, why would you have a guy like Presley up who every time you put him in, you're like,
Well, I will tell you, after watching his last couple of performances, it's just he's lost his swing and miss stuff. And I mean, that implosion yesterday, I was kind of like, man, this guy, I think he is who he is. You could bring him in against these lesser teams where he put these solid performances together since that Giants debacle. But I don't know that I would trust him in a playoff situation. And I'm with you, Kyle. I think it's time that you look at a Luke Little and a Riley Martin and see if these guys are ready. Or see, you did it with Drew Pomerantz and you did it with Chris Flexen. If Cosgrove has found something in the minor leagues, give him a crack. Why not?
Why does Craig Counsell have such little patience for the young pitchers, man? These aged veterans that are in this rotation, no matter how bad these guys play, they seem to stick around. But a guy like Luke Little, who was the 117th overall pick in the 2020 draft, and he's a 4th round pick on this Cubs team, has spent his entire career on a fucking bus, man. It's Chicago to Iowa. I don't understand. The guy plays one bad outing, and they're just done with the Luke Little project for the next 6 months.
You know what the craziest thing about it is, Brandon? That 0.2 innings he pitched this season where he had the implosion where he walked 4 guys in a row and now he has that bloated 13 ERA in the regular season. Even with that bloated 13 ERA, his career ERA in the major leagues, like in the major league level, is still a sub-3 ERA. I mean, this guy sucks. He had sustained success in the major league level. He was for a month. He was a sub-3 pitcher, or sub-2 ERA pitcher. I agree with you, Brendan. That's the question. That's something Sean and I have talked about on the show often. Like, why are some guys given such long leashes and other guys, it's like, oh, you're done. You're out. Take it easy. I don't understand it. Obviously, there's probably some validity behind it. I'm sure Craig Counsell knows what he's doing. But from an outside perspective, it's sure tough to tell why. Like, Luke Little, if I was the Cubs manager, I'm telling you guys right now, Luke Little would be on this roster. No doubt about it. It's not even a question.
And he's got a heater that most pitchers – on this roster don't have, but most pitchers in the MLB just don't have. I mean, like you said, Kyle, this guy pitches triple digits consistently. Just not a lot of Cubs pitchers doing that, man. And I don't understand. I think if he's going to struggle a little bit, you need this kind of. I would like to see them coach through that, man, and see if Luke can reach a plateau here where he's a dependable part of this rotation or the dependable part of this bullpen when the playoffs come around, man. Because you might want an arm like that.
Well, the thing that is just so weird is the patience was shown with Daniel Palencia, and now look at the results.
Yeah.
And they won't do this with anybody else, and it's kind of puzzling to me.
And you could say the same about PCA. They had look at the papers role for Pete Crow-Armstrong. Look what he's doing. He's 2 of your best players on your roster right now are minor leaguers that came up here, and you took the time to groom and develop them, and were patient with them. But Luke Little gets 0.2 innings, and they're like, all right, take it easy, Luke.
You're out of here.
I mean, they had more patience with Caleb Killian than they do Luke Little, and that guy sucked.
That's true.
Awful,
Yeah,
I forgot about Caleb.
It's really frustrating. It's really frustrating because honestly, and Kyle, I think I said this last week on the Northside Nine, these guys, the segment was two guys knocking on the door, and it was Little and Martin. And I'm thinking, when I saw the headline DFA, Cabrera DFA, I'm like, ooh, which one of these young kids is coming up? And then I see it's Nate Pearson. I'm like, give me the news. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, does that almost feel forced? I mean, this is a guy, Nate Pearson, who they traded for at the end of last season. Do you think Craig Counsell's hand is being forced here? I mean, he's required to put Nate Pearson on this roster?
It could very well be.
If I'm the Cubs, if you look at that, like Sean said, they're building this team with the farm system, right? Right now, to me, the strongest part of the Cubs farm system outside of the bats, and you never know what you're going to get from the at-bats, and the bats take a long time to develop in the major league level. Right now, the strongest part of that farm system is these relief pitchers. So why continue to pay guys like Presley $16 million a year or pay Nate Pearson when you can DFA these guys, save some of that money, and start to bring these young studs up? Not only are you setting yourself up for the future in terms of getting guys like Luke Little experience, Riley Martin experience, Daniel Plessy experience, but you're also saving money so that you could actually have a realistic conversation with Kyle Tucker and be like, hey, listen, we're not going to give you $600 million, but we can meet you somewhere. Like, be realistic with us. Be fair. We'll meet you somewhere in the middle. But why jump? How much money is he making, Sean Presley? He's just not that guy anymore, guys. He's not. It's time for Ryan Presley, for the Cubs to, unfortunately, probably part ways with him.
Scott Angel asked a question in regards to what you just said. Are the Cubs being ultra cheap and don't want to start the big league paycheck or pay clock for these guys?
That could be true.
I'd have to look into like how many. Sean, do you know how many more options they have for Luke Little?
I don't off the top of my head.
So I'm sure
I would imagine they have a couple, but I think in that aspect, Scott, like, when you talk about a guy like PCA or they did it with Chris Bryant, I think they kind of reserve that for these superstars where they want that contract control. Like, you have contract control for PCA for another 5 years. You don't have to worry about him going anywhere. When it comes to relievers, I don't know. Now, I will say this: they played that game with Cade Horton this year, so he could not come up until that certain date. I think it had to be 20 days into the month or something.
He has two remaining. Luke Little.
So maybe they're being patient with him, but I mean,
if not now, then when?
That's the other question, man.
100-mile-an-hour lefty, man, just seems to me like can find a place in the rotation, regardless of the struggles. Like I said, that's a guy that I'd be patient with. And I think Craig Counsell, Scott, you're right. I think Craig Counsell and Kyle's right. I don't want to question what Craig Counsell's. I mean, he's really impressed me this year. I was dogging on him last year. He's proved me wrong. But how stubborn are you going to be with some of these young kids, man? I mean, a 100-mile-an-hour left-handed pitcher is a guy that a lot of other teams would be licking their chops over no matter what the struggles are.
Well, you want to know what's funny, Kyle, is I was texting you, what was it, Thursday? Like Cabrera, or it was Wednesday or Thursday, I text you. Cabrera's dog shit, and he needs to stop bringing him in these tight ball games. And he did it, 3 games in a row? And this dude gave up back-to-back 3 red homers in back-to-back games. And I'm just sitting here, like, the Cubs are down 2 runs. This is a high-leverage situation because the Cubs can erupt at any time and come back from a 2-run deficit. You brought Cabrera in, who basically blew the game for you, and then you Presley. You probably weren't expecting Presley to erupt in the 9th like he did, but it was still a winnable game, and you brought Cabrera in, and it cost you what? He's pitched 9 innings, I think, for the Cubs, and he's got an 8.80 earned run average. Why would you bring that guy in unless you're up by 10 runs? It made absolutely no sense, and that goes to the stubbornness of Craig Counsell. Like, dude, this guy sucks. Like,
and
don't
you're
do it.
facing a lineup that have been hot. They've been hot coming in.
Yes.
And the wind's blowing straight out to center. I'm like, dude, when he came in, I looked literally, I'm like, oh my God, they're about to win this. They're about to have 2 more home runs. And sure enough, 2 seconds later, they added 2 runs to the board. I mean, it's just, you guys, there's something going on that we don't know. Like there's something with Riley Martin and Luke Little. It's got to be something with the contract, something like that. But at some point, if you really want to chase World Series, you're not willing to pay Kyle Tucker and he's going to leave at the end of the season. You're like, all right, well, if we're going to do it, we got to do it this year. Then you need to see what you got. And
I'm
Luke
with
Little,
you,
Riley
Jedediah.
Martin. You got it.
Jedediah.
You don't have an option.
Jedediah says what I was just stating, and I'm with you, Jed. 100-mile-an-hour left is more than ideal to have if they're serious about making a push in the playoffs. Yes, this is a player who I think most other baseball teams will be dying to have on their roster, regardless of the struggles, man. If you can get, like Kyle said, if this kid can find a strike zone, the stuff that he's got, man, I mean, that would make a really big impact on your chances at winning some series in the playoffs, man. It
Well,
really
not to
would.
mention when he was up here, guys, it's not like that he was getting hit all over the place. He just had 4 walks in a row. Like they got to go up to him and say, "Hey, Luke, you got to just hit your spots. Your pitch when you pitch down the middle,
Put it over,
that's
put
a
it
tough
over the
pitch
plate.
to hit. Yeah, just find the strike zone, and you're going to get some swing and misses. It's going to happen, but you just got to calm down, relax.
You remember the one thing I was saying to you, like when he was throwing with so much force. He was falling off the far side of the mound. He was coming across his body,
Yeah,
and when he was landing,
no control. Yeah.
yes, that's the one thing. It looks like, and I just watched these snippets on the Iowa Cubs, so I only see him like he'll throw 3 pitches and then it's over and go to the next play. I haven't like watched him, but it looks like he's not doing that right now. And I thought that was one of the biggest flaws in his game last year. When he would come in, he'd start off really well, and then he'd just come in with all his power, and he's just throwing it. He's falling off the side of the mound, like you said, Brandon, just kind of out of control. Something that looks like it's fixed. I really want to see him up here. I want to see Riley Martin up here. Only one of them is going to make it, I think, unless we have a couple of injuries.
And Sean, between Jordan Wicks, Cade Horton, and Ben Brown, I mean, you have to have faith that your coaches, these coaches are doing a really good job developing young pitchers on this baseball team. It's been one of their strengths, if you ask me, over the last few seasons. Why not expect that the change in Luke Little? Why not expect the growth there as well? I mean, you at some juncture, you're going to see the impact these coaches have made on all of these guys, on the rest of them too. You know what I mean? You have to have faith that Luke Little is going to get better at the things that we know he wasn't doing his best. It just doesn't make sense, man.
Did you happen to see, everyone's excited about the back end of the bullpen, getting tight, and, it's just a second rehab outing, but I'm just about to put this up here. Last night, Porter Hodge, man, he was not good. He got destroyed. He followed Shota in his start last night and got rocked, dude. He went a third of an inning, dude. 4 hits, 7 runs. That 0 earned is not true. 6 of them were earned. 2 walks, no Ks. No, 6 of the 7 were earned. 6, I screwed that up. 6 of the 7 were earned, though. So, and I'm hoping, he's coming back after a long injury, that this is something that's not, because I was really like, here's another arm that's coming to the bullpen. Who leaves when he comes back? Who leaves when Assad comes back?
So it's good transition. I'm glad you brought Porter Hodge up. I obviously, Sean, like you said, it's just one outing. He's probably still dealing with it, maybe dealing with that injury, or maybe he's just trying to come back to true form. Maybe messing with some stuff down there. But yeah, that's definitely concerning. That is one of the worst outings I've ever seen. But
it's so bad.
Real quick, Sean brought this up, guys. It looks like Shota Imanaga is going to be back on the Chicago Cubs against the St. Louis Cardinals next week. I don't know how many innings they plan on him pitching in that start. I don't know how many pitches they plan on throwing. I'm assuming it's not going to be a ton. I'm going to guess somewhere around 70 pitches, but he should be back in the rotation. It also sounds
Wednesday or Thursday would be it.
It sounds like Javier Assad's going to make his appearance on the Chicago Cubs as well. So we definitely have some help on the way. Unfortunately, in that same conversation, guys, in the same breath, Eli Morgan, during one of his rehab starts, one of his pitching outings, he did have a setback. So it sounds like Eli Morgan is not going to be on this major league roster for a very long time, which really stinks, because Eli Morgan was the one guy in the offseason that they made a trade for that I actually was really excited about. And then he had obviously that one bad outing, but then Sean come to realize that obviously he was dealing with an injury, and we were like, well, this is weird, because this guy's been absolutely amazing for the last. He had sub-2 ERA on the Indians before the Cubs traded. He was like a 1.3 ERA all season for the Indians. He came here, his first few outings were amazing, and all of a sudden he imploded, and he just got his butt whooped. But then they came out after the game and were like, you know what, Eli Morgan's hurt, we're going to send him down. I was really excited about him coming back to the rotation because I think he's a high leverage kind of guy. I think he can be really, really good for the Cubs. But that's unfortunate.
Is Jordan Wicks done?
No, he just returned from injury this week, and he looked very, very good. I actually have his numbers.
So you have Jordan Wicks, Javier Assad, and Imanaga coming back?
Yeah, you're getting some reinforcements for sure. But like Sean said, who's leaving? Who's leaving?
Well, I think based on the conversation we're having, you could pick a lot of names.
Hold on, I'm about to...
Ethan Roberts should be here for 1 day. 1 day. That guy should be here for 1 day, and then they should get him, or not Ethan Roberts. Dave Pearson. 1 day, and then get him out of here. Get that guy out of here. Why, Vernon? Mark our word. Sean and I have had this conversation many times. You haven't been on this show, but Vernon, in 2 days, you're going to text us and be like, "What the? Nate Pearson needs to get out of here now." Like, get him out of here now.
I liked Nate Pearson at the end of last season, man. But during the off season, I was like, this is not looking like a quality baseball player at all, man. So I mean, people kind of looked like ass, but
it was kind of a disaster. No, sorry. It was kind of a disaster for Jordan Wicks this season. I was actually reading this article where I took this line from him, his rehab start the other day. And I didn't realize, dude, he's had 3 different injuries, and he's injured himself trying to come back from injury. So he's just had kind of a, fluky season where he can't get healthy. So hopefully he's finally back now. I mean, when you look at that, 42 pitches, 30 strikes, induced 7 whiffs, no walks, 4 strikeouts. That's the Jordan Wicks we expect to see, and hopefully that's the Jordan Wicks that will continue to develop in AAA. But I honestly don't think we'll see Jordan Wicks in 2025. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, and Sean, I don't think we should because this is a guy, like you said, this is a top 10 pick in the major league draft. We expected him to at least be their number 3 in the rotation. That's what they told us when they drafted him. They're like, this guy is going to be a staple in the Cubs rotation for a very long time. He's not going to be number 1. He's not dominant. He's not the guy who's throwing 100 miles an hour. He's not going to be your front-end starter. He's not going to be your ace. But this is a guy that I expected to eat up some innings for the Cubs for a very long time, and it's just been an absolute catastrophe over the last season and a half. If I'm the Cubs, listen, you guys, we complain about the Cubs being too patient sometimes. When it comes to Jordan Wicks, you give him all the time he needs down there. I don't want this to turn into another Caleb Killian situation. Sean, real quick while you're here, I mean, obviously we're coming up on the Cubs games.
The Cubs game.
Yeah. So, Sean, we pick our record every week. Every we do the looking ahead to the week ahead. Last week we picked the Cubs to go 5-2. Unfortunately, obviously there was a rain out. I think you were supposed to be at that game. You said, or maybe Tiana was supposed to be at that game. So that game obviously is not going to be accounted for. It doesn't count. But the Cubs did go. Sean, what are we at? What did they go? 3-2. Yeah, 3-2 because they beat the Pirates twice, and then they beat. They went 1-1 against Milwaukee because that rain out. So that was 3-1. And then they just lost to Seattle. So, yeah, they ended up 3-2. So we still were on track to maybe have been correct. Although I'm telling you this, Brandon, that Mezarowski guy, Mizarowski, whatever his name is, I don't think the Cubs would have beaten that guy because he started his career off as probably one of the best pitchers in baseball. I mean, this guy is absolutely a stud. Of course he is because he's in the Cubs division. Why wouldn't he be absolutely a stud muffin? But yeah.
Dude, I hate to tell you this, guys. Chase Burns is coming too. And I've said this over and over again. Everyone always talks about Cincinnati. Their hitting is there. They're about to have Hunter Green, Abbott, Chase Burns, and Nick Lodolo. They have 4 legit starters in this division. And if you guys don't know about Chase Burns, just Google what he's doing in the minor leagues right now. This guy is coming up to be an ace for a staff.
Yeah. So now you have Peralta and Ms. How do you say his name, Sean? Mizarowski.
Mizarowski.
So you have Peralta and Mizarowski in Milwaukee. you just went over the guys in Cincinnati, and then you got Paul Skeens, and at some point Jared Jones is going to come back for the Pirates. I mean, that's what I'm talking about, Sean. This is a team, this is a division that going into the season, people are like, oh, the Cubs pretty much going to win this one. It's going to be between the Cubs, maybe Milwaukee, maybe Cincinnati. Yeah, wrong. Everybody in this right
Everybody
now,
said it.
I believe correct me if I'm wrong, Sean, but I think this is the winningest division in baseball right now, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, the Cardinals and Brewers are right behind us, 4.5 games behind the Cubs, and the Cubs are leading the NL. So, I mean, it's got to be close.
I think 4 out of the 5 teams in the division are 500, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think the Reds are 39 and 37 or something like that. So a couple games over 500. And then obviously we just talked about the Cardinals. Now I'll say this, Sean. As of 3 days ago, the Cardinals were 7 games behind the Cubs, and then they ran into the Chicago White Sox. Of course. They
and the White Sox gave them everything they could handle, though.
And now they run into the Chicago Cubs, so the story's going to change for the Cardinals here soon.
Yeah, but here's the problem.
I wish I could have made graphics for this week, man. I had some great Cardinals graphics. Damn it.
So, Sean, I'm so glad Sean brought Burns up because, guys, you're talking about those 2 starters for every single team. I mean, Sean Abbott is absolutely a monster. He's an absolute monster.
And you want to know, Kyle? Like we've been talking, what did Cincinnati do? They developed him at the major league level, like Washington developed Mackenzie Gore. Now look at what's happening to these guys. They're turning into dominant pitchers. That's why, Brandon, I was saying earlier, I don't want Cade Horton to go anywhere. I've seen the results. Leave him here.
Guys, if you're talking about teams like you're talking about the Pirates with Jared Jones and Paul Skeens, you're talking about the Reds with Green, Abbott, and now Burns. You're talking about the Milwaukee Brewers with Peralta and Mizraski. I mean, you're talking the Cardinals have good pitching as well. This is what we've been talking about all season, right, Sean? It's time for the Cubs to either add a dominant pitcher and via the trade or wait for the offseason and add one in free agency. But I mean, if you want to compete with these teams and you want to stay at that level, you got to keep.
Let me ask you this though, Kyle. Wouldn't you say if Horton continues to develop the way he is, that would be Horton and Shota for the Cubs to compete with the rest of the division?
Yeah, I mean,
with still Jackson Wiggins developing and seemingly on a fast track to the major leagues.
Sean, you know what? I love the outlook for the Cubs rotation going into the future. If you're talking about 2026, 2027, I mean, if you get Justin Steele back, and obviously this injury's been a recurring issue, so we don't know if Justin Steele's ever going to be healthy again. But say he does come back and he's healthy, and you're talking about Justin Steele, Shota Imanaga, Cade Horton, and even like if Ben Brown can continue to develop that third pitch and he becomes a dominant pitcher, or they bring a guy up like Jackson Wiggins. Yeah, then you're talking about, but then is Kyle Tucker here? I mean, it's just the timing. Cubs got to figure out the timing. Like if you can bring that rotation here next year, the rotation we just went over, and Kyle Tucker's still here, the Cubs are going to be in one of the favorites to win the World Series. They're going to be in the conversation with the Dodgers.
Here, I'll say this, and I've said this, I know, on a lot of shows, and Scott Angel makes fun of me, and Kyle, you don't believe it either. I still believe in my heart, for the first time ever, that Kyle Tucker's going to end up here long term, and we're going to have Tucker and PCA on this team, and the Cubs are going to have 2 superstars. It almost has to happen, because if it doesn't, man, what kind of slap in the face is it to your fan base that spends $30 a beer at Wrigley Field? What kind of slap in the face is it to your fan base that loves this team, that says, hey, we gave up 3 prospects, 1 Cam Smith who could be a generational talent, and we're just going to let this guy go. We want to see if we can do it for 1 year, and now we're done. To me, as a Cub fan, it's really going to piss me off if this guy's not here. Like, I don't get mad at the Cubs too often because they do a lot of dumb shit, but this would probably be the dumbest thing that this franchise has ever done. And that's including trading Lou Brock to the Cardinals.
And letting Greg Maddux leave Chicago.
And Maddux go, yes.
But yeah, Sean, I mean, you're right. If you go to the Wrigley Field, they ask you for $28 for Jameson and ginger ale, and then they want to tell you that they don't have any money to pay Kyle Tucker. That's insulting to the fan base. And
Yep.
Wrigley Field is always going to be packed, guys, because it's kind of like a tourist location at this point. It's a historical landmark. Anybody who comes to Chicago has to go see Wrigley Field, so they're never going to struggle to sell tickets. But if they decide not to sign Kyle Tucker, like Vernon talked about earlier, they just take their foot off the gas and they're like, oh well, we made a run at the World Series, it didn't work out, we didn't win, or whatever happens this season. Let's just let Kyle Tucker walk, and we'll go back to our old rolly ways. I'm going to be hard pressed to find a Cubs fan that should be rooting for this team in the future until they start.
100%.
You need to force them to change their hand. You need to force them, like you guys. I honestly believe this, and Sean, you correct me if I'm wrong, Brandon, you as well, but I believe that Matt Eberflus was fired in the middle of the season as the first Bears head coach ever because the national press and the fan base forced the Bears to make that decision. They were, after that Thanksgiving debacle, they were like, what the fuck is going on? You guys need to get rid of Matt Eberflus. This is a joke. This guy's a joke. The fan base and the national media needs to do the same thing when it comes to Kyle Tucker. When these contract negotiations start in the offseason, the national media needs to come out and be like, man, if the Cubs traded away maybe a generational talent, Cam Smith, the guy who obviously can hit the major league. He's already hitting 270. He's a rookie.
Yeah.
He's only probably going to get better, right? He's probably going to be Kyle Tucker-esque. And they traded him away for a rental. This is one of the worst looks in the history of Chicago sports. You cannot let
brutal.
We went over, like you said, Kyle, firing Matt Eberflus. This was just one of those defining moments of Ryan Pohl's career. And when you go back and look at all the defining moments of your manager's career, is there more good than bad? And this is going to weigh on Jed Hoyer, right? I mean, you maybe your best offensive prospect in Cam Smith for Kyle Tucker, being aggressive, like I said. But if you don't get which right now looks pretty damn good on Jed Hoyer because Kyle Tucker's been a phenomenal baseball player. If you don't get the deal done, nobody's going to look back at this as a positive thing. So it's Jed Hoyer. The pressure is on Jed Hoyer, regardless if the fan base expects it or not. This is going to be a moment that defines his career.
Sean and I talked about this a couple of times in this podcast, but when I say, like, when you hear people say, me included, myself included, if you know for a fact you're not going to give him $600 million, you need to consider trading him. People laugh at me. They're like, dude, this Cubs in the middle of a pennant race, in the middle of the World Series race. You guys, as a Cubs fan, wouldn't you rather have 3 World Series because you added 5 good prospects for Kyle Tucker than to have one run at one World Series, even if you don't even know if you're going to win this year, and then he's a rental and he just walks in free agency, you get nothing back for him. I mean, that's basically, if you don't win the World Series this year, that's basically like you took Cam Smith and just gave him away.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
That's exactly. And like I said, man, if you guys get a chance, and the Cubs are about to run into the Astros here coming up this week, you get a chance, watch Cam Smith. The kid's a stud. He's an absolute stud. He's the 3rd fastest player in the history of baseball to make a major league roster. He spent the least amount of time in the minors, the 3rd least amount of time in the minors of any prospect in the history of baseball. If Sean, I don't know the term you use all the time, if they let Kyle Tucker walk, Cam Smith becomes a superstar. That's a big pie in the face for that guy.
Oh God,
you're better off. You would be better off if you're the Cubs and your outlook is we're not paying this kid what he's going to ask for. You better put him on the fucking trading block before.
Yeah, and I know there were some people. I told you, Kyle, you brought this up. I don't know, 3 weeks ago about trading Kyle Tucker, and I've been seeing a little chatter on X about it, and people getting destroyed. Like, you're crazy. It's a pennant race. We can't win without him. But you know what? Long-term view, you're not going to be winning without him next year either. Because who replaces that production? You're not going to find it. You're not going to find it.
I mean, like you said, is it possible? Yes. Would I bank on it? No. Like, can you bank on Kevin Alcantara or Owen Casey or Matt Shaw becoming Kyle Tucker? No. It's just baseball, man. You never know what you're going to get from these kids. They could look like
I will tell you this. I will tell you this, though, and you know where I'm going with this, Kyle. I do think the Cubs have a superstar in the making. I think they do. I think it's just a matter of time. But Jefferson Rojas is he might be him. I'm just saying. Just continue to
written today.
No, I did not.
Yeah, so I wish I could remember his name, but one of the baseball writers, and he's a national writer. This is not a Cubs writer. Wrote an article about Jefferson Rojas today, and he said, "Listen, I understand that these kids, they're young, they're kids, they need to spend a long time in the majors or in the minors. He's like, but the Cubs need to seriously consider rushing Jefferson Rojas through
He's
all this,
so
getting him
good.
as soon as they possibly can. He said the same thing you said, Sean. He's like, this guy is going to be a bona fide superstar in baseball for a very long time. And Sean, if you bring up Jefferson Rojas and you're talking about Matt Shaw, you're talking about Kevin Alcantara, you're talking about PCA, you're talking about Michael Bush, you're talking about
Cubs got a good core.
yeah, I mean, then you probably don't need Kyle Tucker, but you're banking on a lot. You're leaving a lot to chance. That's the problem.
And I want to say this too, really quick, because I know we're coming up against it. But everyone, just calm down. Matt Shaw is going to go through this. He's going through something right now. He's going to figure it out. He's a professional hitter. He's going to be fine.
Yeah.
By the way, guys,
Yeah. Matt Shaw he looks really good to me.
Owen Casey.
He looks a little.
Phenomenal season, by the way. And
Casey's on a tear right now. His last month's been on. He's been on fire.
He win Player of the Month or something?
People.
Yeah.
Player of the Week or Player of the Month? He won something.
He's slashing 278, 403, 454 right now in 57 games. I mean,
I think they have pieces.
Yeah.
He might be, though. You're going to have to give up a couple of these good kids to get a front-end starter, and I know a lot of people aren't going to be happy. And I said this, and I know we talked to Jeff Tatar about it. He's kind of our baseball guru, and he disagreed with me a little bit, but I almost like Alcantara a little bit more than Casey just because he's more resembles a 5-tool player than Casey, and you can dangle Casey in front of somebody who would be happy to take him. And I think Casey's going to be a fine baseball player. But we need front end starting, and I would start dangling him because, I mean, I guess not. If you're not going to have Kyle Tucker, you're going to need someone in right field next year. And if you're going back to Suzuki, your defense is taking a big dip. And this is so huge right now, man. This is so huge to keep Kyle Tucker here. Although Kyle Tucker's defense hasn't been that impressive either.
No,
outside of his offense, he's a pretty average baseball player, even as a base runner. But I'll say this.
I'd say above average base runner. That's my personal.
First of all, I agree with Scott here. I do think that some of the stuff we're talking about, Jed Hoyer's hands are tied, and this is ultimately up to the Ricketts. It's their money. They're the ones who say how much money he can spend. I think if Jed Hoyer had it his way, Kyle Tucker would be here for a very long time because he wants to win baseball games. As a manager, the only way he gets paid is if the Cubs win baseball games. So he wants Kyle Tucker. Not about that. Ultimately, that's going to come down to the Ricketts because it's their money. But I'll say this, guys: if they let him walk, then you need Owen Casey and Kevin Alcantara.
Yeah, you do.
Not going to be much longer either. So your outfield would then become Owen Casey, PCA, and Kevin Alcantara. And Sean, even thinking about Suzuki going out there permanently gives me the heebie-jeebie. I don't want Suzuki in the field in any way, shape.
You know what the problem is with that, Kyle? And I hate to be the pessimist, but what's the likelihood of all of them coming up here and just being world beaters? Yeah, like that's what's scary.
What's unfortunate, man, is as good as the Cubs are playing. The Cubs have been bad for these last couple of years. Bad enough where you get to pull these kids up like they did PCA, like they did Matt Mervis, and you get to watch what these kids are made of. You're not gonna. Owen Casey's not gonna get to play any baseball on this team in the major leagues.
No.
You're not going to see that if these guys remain here.
They'll do what they did with Canario last year. They'll bring him up and let him sit on the bench, and that can't help his development either. You need these guys to keep swinging.
What is Casey DH for a week or so? I mean, you know what I mean? Yeah. What are you going to do to see what this guy's potential is?
The other thing, too, what was just a little disturbing to me was, and I know he's not the greatest catcher in the world, but you talk about development. You chose to sign Reese McGuire, who, by the way, has been pretty damn good for the Cubs. He puts up quality at bats.
Yeah, Kelly and McGuire are helping the Cubs continue their
but that's where I was going to go. Kelly is kind of fallen off, and you have Mo Baller down there, and you choose not to use him again.
Kyle said that early in the season on this Northside Nine show. It's only a matter of time before Kelsey looks like an average baseball player again.
You guys, Kelly is. He's second in All-Star voting for the catcher in the NL. I'm like, are you insane? You guys are going to put Kelly in the All-Star game? Like, listen, what Carson Kelly did early in the season was awesome. It was fun. It was fantastic. He was way better than the Cubs expect him to be. But at the end of the day, he's become Carson Kelly. There's no way in hell you could put that guy in the All-Star game. Are you insane? That's like if you put that guy in the All-Star game, there's a good chance he's 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts. Like, there's no way Carson Kelly can make the All-Star game. What he did was awesome. It was fun. But Sean, I know Sean is with me and he agrees with me. Brennan, I want Miguel Amaya back here.
Oh, me
Miguel
too.
Amaya is
I've been talking to Sean about Miguel Amaya for the entire
he
season.
he needs to come, like, as soon as he's healthy, the Cubs need to get him back here, and he needs to play every day because he's the future. That's the future of this organization. I mean, if you're not willing to bring Mo Baller up and Moises Ballesteros, then Miguel Amaya should be your everyday catcher, and Carson Kelly should be coming off the bench to give him a break, or maybe Carson Kelly just works better with a certain pitcher, like kind of like David Ross did with John Lester. That's fine.
What a blessing! What a find in Miguel Amaya, man. I mean, I think this guy was a draft pick out of like Honduras or something like that. And I mean, like this.
You know what though? But he was a high prospect in the Cubs organization who couldn't stay healthy, and I preach patience.
It's been a bit of a steal, man, because he looks not only like he's a quality baseball player, but he's getting better every time we watch.
He's getting better.
Well, real quick,
and really quick on Owen Casey, because I was going to bring this up too, and I'm glad you did, Brandon.
No, we lost him again. Sean, the airport's having some internet trouble there.
And that's just that suspense kills me here now because I really want to hear what he's about to say right now. Like, you guys know, I'm Owen Casey's biggest fan, man. I love this kid. This kid's hitting the bat 119 miles. He hit a ball 119 miles out of the park.
You talk about trade bait, man. Power hitters are always good trade bait. People always want power hitters, man. Everybody wants power hitters. Everybody wants home runs.
We get Sean back here real quick, guys, to see what he had to say. Sorry, Kyle.
Yeah, because we're coming up on the Cubs game here, guys, so we're going to try to get out of here. But I want to get Sean, we lost you after real quick.
I was talking about Owen Casey. He's having the best month of his career, hitting 396. He's got an OPS in June.
Yeah, he's tearing it up right now, man.
Yeah, he is on fire. And the one thing I've always said is what I was worried about his whiff rates. His whiff rates have dropped every single month from 38 to 31. And this month of June, he's down to 23. And that's what you want to continue to see, that whiff rate to continue to go down, that walk rate to continue to go up. So Casey could be developing into a future right fielder.
He has it's 29% strikeout rate right now, which is not
it's not good.
No,
but it's going to get better. He's a power hitter. And, power hitters have higher strikeout rates, so it's not overly concerning. But.
It's a good point.
Sean, you've heard me say this 1,000 times. I would not want to be Jed Hoyer right now. He's going to make some decisions that could either set this organization back for years, or he could win a World Series.
Well, Kyle, I think next week, man, I think next week we're going to have to do this because Jed Hoyer's coming up for it's either walk or sign him at the end of this year. And I think this is something we should delve into next week. And decisions made. Do we want to keep Jed Hoyer here? Is he the guy we want to lead this ball club? It's coming up. It's coming up on it, man. It's coming up on it. So,
you guys, real quick, I want to say thank you to everybody in the chat. I want to say thanks for joining us. Obviously the show is very structured. Sean usually puts together a bunch of stuff for us. We do what's going on in the farm system. Today we since Sean was on vacation, Vernon's here. Vernon doesn't get a chance to watch as many of the Cubs games as we do because he works during the day. Obviously,
very little. I get a chance to watch. I pay attention, close attention. I watch the box scores. I watch the highlights. I read the stories. I do not get to watch, guys, too many baseball games.
But it was a really fun show, Brandon. I'm glad you came.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining. Just shooting the shit about the Cubs. We could talk about the Cubs for hours, guys. Sean, last week we projected the Cubs to go 5-2. We weren't necessarily wrong because they ended up going 3-2 because 3-2, right? Because they beat the Pirates. Yeah, and they had that rain out there, so we couldn't predict that game, obviously. But Sean, looking at the week ahead, you get the Mariners today, you get the Mariners tomorrow, then you get a 4-game stretch with the Cardinals, and then before we're back on next Saturday, you'll get 1 game against the Astros. So first we'll start with the Mariners. You got the Mariners today and tomorrow. What do you think the Cubs record's going to be in the next 2 games? Unfortunately, Sean, I don't have the pitching matchups in front of me, but
I'm going 1-1 because the Cubs get. The Cubs get what's his name tomorrow? They get their ace tomorrow. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. Yeah, and Horton's pitching today. Man, I'm going to say 1-1. I'm going to say 1-1. And the Cardinals, I'm going to go 2-2. My faith is down a little bit right now.
Oof,
And
so
what
you
about
got
that
him going
Astros game?
3-3 in the next. And what about the Houston game, Sean?
Who's that first? Is that first matchup? Is it Colin Ray on Friday?
I don't have the.
Hold on, let me look.
Yeah, I don't know if Bruce something Bruce wants to bring up real quick.
It
Bruce, we'll
says,
get you up here.
I'm looking at the preview.
It's Horton. It's Horton. Horton is the first game on Friday versus.
All right, so right now you got him at 3-3. So what do you against Houston? You got Horton.
God, I haven't done this all year, man. I'm going to take the Cubs to have a 3-4 week. I just don't like what I see right now.
It's not the same Cubs teams we watched early in the season, man. This is definitely the lowest their offense has been to this point in the season. Bruce, what do you got, man? Sean's got him going 3-4.
For today, I say 2-0. I say 2-2 for the Cardinals. 2-2.
What did you say? 2-0 and 2. So right now, you'd have them at 4-2. You got one more game there, Bruce.
Yeah, I say 1-0, so 5-2.
So
5-2.
5-2.
Yeah.
John's got 3-4. Bruce 5-2. Brennan.
I'm gonna say they take these two next games against the Mariners. I do like the split series against the Cardinals. I'm gonna take them at a loss in the first game against the Houston Astros.
So Brennan's got them at 4-3.
4-3.
I'm with Brennan. I think the Cubs walk out of these before we see everybody next Saturday. I think the Cubs are going to finish the week 4-3. I don't know exactly how it's going to go. I think they will split against the Mariners. I agree with Sean, and I think they'll actually go 3-1 against St. Louis. And I'm just saying that
I hope so.
More than anything on the planet, and I hope they absolutely destroy them.
And
Me too.
No player bothers me more in baseball now than Wilson Contreras, because ever since he's left the Cubs, he's become like a Cubs leader, which I don't understand. Like, dude, you want a World
I know.
Series
I've begun to like Javi Baez again and hate Wilson Contreras.
Yes, I agree. And maybe that's just the bias because he's a Cardinal and Javier Baez is on Detroit, and I like Detroit. They pose no threat to the Cubs. It's a totally different conference. Detroit's been bad for a long time. I hope Detroit ends up being really good. If the Cubs can't win the World Series this year, I hope it's Detroit. But I appreciate you joining us, Sean. I know you're
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Stuff, man.
Thanks, Sean. Looking forward to having you back next week, man.
Let our chat get out of here and go watch the Cubs game. Bruce, thanks for all.
I'm gonna turn it on at the airport here until I have to board this plane in an hour and a half.
Yeah. Foster, thanks for joining the show. Breaking just Bruce, obviously. Jebediah, appreciate you. Scott Angel, thanks for joining the show, man. Foster, the Lions fan. Dustin jumped on here, man. Everybody watching on Twitter, please go over to our YouTube channel. Please hit that like and subscribe button. We appreciate you guys. Brennan, thanks for filling in for Sean for when this early on in the show.
Thanks, Brandon.
He was making the travel. Anything else you guys want to say before we get out of here, man?
Hopefully the Cubs prove me wrong and they take this and you guys are right. I don't have a lot of faith in the pitching. But the Cubs have been better on the road this year, especially when you look at the home and road splits. So hopefully I'm wrong. That's all I got.
I just want to say shit. Fuck Milwaukee, man.
And you guys, Sean and I got a lot to talk about. We're getting closer to the trade deadline here. We're getting closer to the All-Star break here. Who's going to make the All-Star team? Who's not going to make the All-Star team? Who are some realistic names that the Cubs could trade for to add to this rotation? And should Jed Hoyer be extended? We'll get into all that stuff next week. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. We appreciate you guys. Go watch the Cubs game. Have some fun. Sean, safe travels, my friend.
Thanks, brother. We'll see you guys when I touch down in Chicago. Have a good one, bros. I'll talk to you.
Yeah.